Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. And we are here for our 235th episode here of the Talk That Talk Show. And boy, if you didn't get a chance to check out our last episode, I want to give a big time shout out to Tommy Martino for coming and guest appearing on our episode 234 called Majestic Lanes. This wound up breaking our Facebook record as far as our most watched Facebook video episode of the Talk That Talk Show. And, it's definitely situations like that where I want to, emphasize, being able to be vulnerable on the podcast and being able and accessible. I think one of the reasons why that was one of our better episodes is because, the person that came on, Tommy, was a great guest. He was somebody that was honest. He came up and was 110% himself. And I think it just made for a great episode. And I think that, from all the feedback that I've gotten over this past week from that episode, it was just nothing but positive vibes and people just saying about how informative that episode was. So, moving forward, I definitely want to continue to be entertaining. Still progress as a podcast. Still do different things outside of just recording episodes to try and build this brand. And I think that, that episode last week, and just with all the different positive vibes from people just saying just how informative it was and how much they enjoyed it. Big shout out to Mike Cena. He was somebody that said he watched it twice. So, I definitely want to continue to make content like that. And I think that one of the toughest things to do after you have a great episode like that is to come out with another episode. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of times people that try out podcasting fail is because, once you get that initial, surge, or you get that, captivate that audience, or you get that really, breakthrough episode, the grind doesn't stop there. You got to continue to try and progress, think of different ways to be innovative. And I think that through merchandising, just through guerrilla marketing in general, it's just really built this podcast to greater heights than I've ever could have imagined. But at the same time, we still have a long way to go as far as reaching the goals that I want to attain here with this Talk That Talk Show. And I think that one of my goals, when I look back at some of the prior episodes, I talked about some things that I wanted to see happen with this podcast. And one of the things that I said I wanted to do was I wanted to try and get some new sponsorship into the podcast. And, first and foremost, I want to give a big time shout out to Timmy Hugel Jr. He owns Ink Parlor Sublimation, and, from putting me on as staff on his company, I've just done a great job of just trying to get him accounts, and at the same time, just repping the brand. I think that when it comes to building a brand, it's very difficult to start off the rip, because not only do you have to get past the costs of merchandising, but you have to make people believe that whatever you choose to set that price point at is that it's worth it. And with Tim, the one of the things that I really thank him again once gotta give him a big time shout out, is because all the products that he makes are high quality. And when it came down to my manager coming in to the alley to come check out, he was amazed at all the people that had Ink Parlor Sublimation shirts on. And again, it just speaks to the reach of not only Tim, but also, the Talk That Talk Show, because you definitely see a lot of Talk That Talk Show jerseys out there. So big shout out to everybody and anybody that does own a Talk That Talk Show jersey and that wears them to the alley, because, I appreciate you guys so much for that. And because of the fact that we've been able to be successful in the lanes, because I was able to, be proactive and try and seek out further opportunities like I challenged myself to, I'm happy to tell you guys that we got ourselves a new partnership sponsorship. All right. Our new sponsor is going to be Cloud9 Dispensary. It's one of the jobs, my second job that I've worked at. And I say this, I definitely did, enjoyed my second job before. It was good for the time that I had it, but I've really thoroughly enjoyed my time here at Cloud9, and I think that not only has it been a blessing in disguise, but really it's created some new opportunities outside of just working. And when they saw just how passionate I was about my bowling, they just saw how much I could boost their company as well with my personability and people skills. It was without a question that when it came down to them sponsoring my bowling team, and then obviously with the podcast, it was a no-brainer for them. And I think that moving forward, I just want to continue to try and push out great content and be the best version of myself outside of the podcast, because like my mom says, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if I would have walked into that job like an asshole and not prioritized doing the right things and being a great worker, and trying to put myself in a position that they couldn't say no to me on a sponsorship deal. So I want to also again give a big time shout out to Timmy Hugel Jr., because when it came down to it, they were like, well, let's see the proof. Once you show us the jersey, then we can go forward with production. And Tim really did a great job as far as captivating what I wanted with the sponsorship jerseys, and they're going to be one of my favorites that we get to rock. So I feel very blessed, because not very many bowling teams do you see all in unison, all in uniform, but on top of that, not many do you see have sponsorship deals. So I just want to continue to keep grinding, keep working, and I feel like with this sponsorship deal, it's going to be a little bit easier to try and get some more sponsors on board, and hopefully get you guys some more cool merchandise that we can kind of put on the shelves. But just proud of the growth, proud of this podcast, and you guys never cease to amaze me as far as the support that you give me on a week-to-week basis. And just the I talked again, like Mike Cena said, about just how informative the last podcast was for him. But I feel like the feedback that you guys give me, whether you give me calls, give me texts, send comments, those types of feedback are the things that make me want to come back and make me want to stay accountable of giving you guys an episode. Because it's so easy to just put things on the back burner. It's so easy to find excuses to not fulfill our responsibilities. But at the end of the day, that joy that you get upon fulfilling something that you set out to do, there's no better feeling in the world. And I have to give a big time shout out to this person, because I hope to at one point in time be able to see this amount of money, but I think it goes without question. We couldn't have a sports talk show, or couldn't have a podcast without talking about the biggest deal in sports history. So, we want to give a big time shout out to Shohei Ohtani for getting a $700 million deal. Guys, put in the chat, what would you do if you had $700 million? What's the first thing that you would buy if you had $700 million? I tell you what, that's life-changing and generational money, man. And I think that a great question that was asked by my girlfriend is probably the question that a lot of people ask out there as well, too. And the thing that she had asked when we were just waking up in the morning, hearing the news of the signing, but she asked me, she said, is he really worth $700 million? Can a guy really make $700 million? And, when I tried to justify it to her, the fact that he could pitch and hit, and he was a two-way player, it just didn't seem to resonate to her as far as being a threat on both sides of the plate, being worth $700 million. And I can see where she's a little skeptical, because, in the past, at her being a Yankee fan, she's seen the Giancarlo Stanton deal of a large amount of money. And we're still to this day talking about that being maybe not one of the best deals. I feel like there's obviously an immense amount of risk when you put that much money into somebody, because when you look at a franchise like the Pittsburgh Pirates, someone like Shohei Ohtani is probably making more money than that entire franchise combined. I will say this, Shohei Ohtani, I could see why he switched and went over to the Dodgers, and I respect him for it, because I feel like a lot of times you get players that get prideful as far as trying to stay with franchises and feeling ultimately that in staying that they'll take care of them. And what we've seen is, especially in baseball, if you fall off, the loyalty that these franchises have to these players aren't what they expect, right? I mean, we can look no far as Joey Votto, someone who, spent his whole franchise in Cincinnati, his whole career there, and, when they got a couple of new players, they just sent him off, and just gave him a media a presser to let him know he released it, which is absolutely insane for somebody that gave so much to that franchise. So on the same accord, when you look at Shohei Ohtani, who was starting to get into that quicksand that was the Los Angeles Angels, and you have to look around and see, if you got Mike Trout, who's arguably one of the best players of our generation, and you pair him with a Shohei Ohtani, and this team still can't make it into the playoffs, still can't win a playoff series, still can't even be over 500, you can see where the frustration from Shohei Ohtani was. And again, you see guys who waste their careers not trying to win. And we used to, I'm sure I've been someone who's been critical of Kevin Durant, but when Kevin Durant saw the opportunity to win a championship, he took advantage of that, and I think that's here what Shohei is on this side of the coin, where he saw the Dodgers, who have one of the biggest payrolls in baseball, and they decide, hey, let's give this guy $700 million, because I promise you, when he took that flight up to Toronto, it was probably cold up there. I know it was. I know it's cold here in Jersey a little bit. So I know when he took that flight up to Toronto, he was like, yeah, I could probably win here, but I don't know if Toronto's going to be the place I want to spend my life. And when you look at, where he's lived in Los Angeles, switching from the Angels to the Dodgers, he doesn't have to move too far. And I think that, it was a no-brainer for Shohei when you talk about the team that he's joining. You're talking about Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts. I mean, the list goes on of just, players in that Dodgers organization of the championship caliber. And when you talk about Shohei, and when I again tried to explain to her that he's worth $700 million because he can pitch and hit, half of the reason of why you're paying him that $700 million, he's not able to do next year. So for 1 year, Shohei will not be pitching. And I tell you this, it is not a guarantee that Shohei Ohtani will still be the same dominant pitcher that he has been, because we've seen it from a Jacob deGrom. When you deal with those elbow injuries and when you deal with the Tommy John surgery, it makes it a big time risk when you invest in money in these guys as pitchers, not just for 1 and 2 year deals, but especially for the multi-year deal that Shohei got. But if he can justify with his bat getting that $700 million to hold off the Los Angeles Dodgers from his pitching accolades until 2025, then this deal might be good. But even still, I think to make this $700 million worth it for the Los Angeles Dodgers, they need to get not 1, but 2 championships out of Shohei Ohtani. Because again, when you break the record for most money made in an entire contract spanning all sports, just think about soccer, right? Being one of the world's largest sports. And now you have a Shohei Ohtani who eclipses that worldwide domination of contracts from soccer. I mean, $700 million is 2 generations worth of changing money, right? So when you're talking about paying a guy that much money, that's got to equate to championships. It's got to equate to at least 2 championships, in my opinion. But again, who knows? But I do like the ballsy nature of the Los Angeles Dodgers to open up that checkbook, because we like to, blast guys like the Oakland Athletics, or blast teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates who don't want to invest in their team. And then they wonder why they're in the bottom of the division every year, right? Or they wonder why they can't get these free agency signings to come to be a part of that rebuild. You got to pay to play. And when you see the franchises, I mean, you look at the Texas Rangers, it wasn't the sexy pick to pay Corey Seager all that money, but when it came down to postseason time, damn it, that guy earned that money. So again, when you open the checkbooks and you do so in the right way, there's no telling what that could do for a franchise. So yes, we're here saying, wow, $700 million is a fuck ton of money. But if the Dodgers are able to win not one, but maybe even 2 championships with a Shohei Ohtani, I promise you we won't be talking about how much money that $700 million was. But when you talk about another thing that we might have overreacted to, I think a big segue to that has to be the Los Angeles Lakers winning the NBA Commissioner's Cup play-in tournament, right? Again, I don't want to knock the Los Angeles Lakers here. The Lakers have and will be a dangerous team. There's a reason why they went to the Western Conference Finals with LeBron James, who's still undefeated against Father Time. But when I look at why the Los Angeles Lakers were able to win that in-season tournament, it's without question Anthony Davis. The way that, Anthony Davis is able to finish in the paint, suck in defenders so that, you can get those kick-out shots. Anthony Davis is a force. And the Los Angeles Lakers are a dominant team when Anthony Davis is out of foul trouble and is healthy. And the unfortunate thing for Lakers fans is, for the majority of the season last year, Anthony Davis was not healthy. But when you ask me, are the Lakers contenders after what I've seen in the NBA play-in tournament, I don't see how you can't say that they're contenders. They've always been contenders. It's just come down to Anthony Davis showing up and whether he's healthy or not. And again, I would like to bet that based off what I've seen in that NBA tournament, the Lakers are going to be a team to look out for. And I promise you, when it comes down to playoff time, teams are going to be trying to jockey so that they don't have to play the Lakers. Because Anthony Davis is an absolute nightmare matchup for any team that has problems protecting the paint. I mean, we were talking about the Indiana Pacers like they were potentially an Eastern Finals candidate. But when they played that Los Angeles Lakers team, and you saw LeBron James, Anthony Davis playing bully ball so much that you have Austin Reeves driving and dunking in the lane, that type of energy and that type of aggressiveness is infectious. So I feel like for the Los Angeles Lakers, if Anthony Davis can continue to be healthy, we're going to see glimpses of what we saw from this Lakers team later on in the season for sure. I definitely think they're contenders, but again, it's all contingent on the health of Anthony Davis, and especially LeBron James. When he's out there boarding the way he is and saying that he's not tired and being active and communicating, staying engaged, again, this Laker team could be dangerous. But as far as my thoughts in general about the NBA in-season tournament, I think this was a bigger success than any of us could have imagined. I think at first a lot of us were confused as far as what the format meant and what we were going to look to expect. And sure, we had a little bit of the hiccups with some players getting upset about teams running it up on them as far as point differentials. But all in all, this NBA tournament was a huge success. I definitely think it's going to be something that you will see next year. And looking into it, I got to shout out my boy Ernesto for my job for thinking outside the box. because he brought up an interesting incentive that, I think is something to look into. But he thought about if the team winning, maybe at the end of the draft, getting an additional draft pick. I think that's something that's really dope because, for one, again, how do you incentivize for people that have so much money, winning $500,000? Now, I know it's a lot for me and you, but maybe for somebody that's made millions of dollars, $500K might not be the biggest incentive. But maybe if that team gets an extra draft pick, maybe you think about balling out a little bit better. Who couldn't use a little bit of help on their team, right? So I think there's definitely some tinkering. I think that the 500K is a nice incentive, but I think that there has to be some sort of, I think, a better incentive to kind of keep the things honest and maybe make some of those teams play a little bit harder that aren't in contention. I feel like that we saw a lot of teams that made it out of the play-in or that first group play were undefeated or one loss teams. What about those teams that have 2 losses that maybe want to tank and don't really care too much about that tournament? So I think that there's got to be a way to kind of incentivize a little bit better those in-season tournament winners. And another thing that I think that, honestly, again, about thinking outside the box, we have to look at the location that the finals of this in-season tournament was. I think that with it being in Las Vegas, it's been a huge push, this Vegas movement. This, I would like to call it almost like a Vegas renaissance, where you have the Las Vegas Aces who have won 2 WNBA championships back to back. You have the Oakland Athletics who are traveling. They're going to be playing games in Las Vegas within the next couple years. I feel as though, especially the NHL, bringing the Vegas Golden Knights and them winning an NHL Stanley Cup. I think that the NBA does not want to be the last one to hop on that Vegas train. And I think that with things like the NBA in-season tournament, it's almost like soft releases to the public on would you come to Vegas? Do you think this is a popular site? And I'm telling you, just from the feedback on the WNBA, from just how much of a home of ice advantage the Vegas Golden Knights have, just the fact that the Athletics want to uproot their franchise, one of the most historical franchises, and go to Vegas. I think it's just more of a reason why when you see instances like this where the NBA in-season tournament is in Vegas, I think that we can start to look to see maybe an NBA franchise on the horizon coming to Vegas. Because the more and more that we see events being held in Vegas, I think the more that it's setting up that yellow brick road to go out and have a Vegas franchise. But, I think a great way to end this podcast, and I know I don't want to do it, I definitely have to talk about the struggles of my Kansas City Chiefs. And I think the biggest thing that we have to talk about here is what have we seen that has not worked. And what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs is they are a shell of themselves offensively. I think that when we look at the Kansas City Chiefs, we always thought of them as the best offensive team. But I think that tide has changed here, especially after the game here, where you host the Buffalo Bills at home, where you're trying to make a statement and saying that you're a powerhouse in the AFC, and you only put up 17 points. To me, that's pathetic. I'm sorry, it's pathetic. If you're a Super Bowl champion, defending Super Bowl champions, and you have a multiple MVP, there's no way that you should be scoring 17 points at home. I'm sorry. I'm very disappointed in what I'm seeing from the Kansas City Chiefs. But I have to say this. For once, and hear me out, it is not the defense's fault. I think that if you get any team and you tell them that you can hold the Buffalo Bills to 20 points, I think anybody's going to take that and say that's a win, 1,000%. But the fact that you're a team that cannot score and you're known for your offense, I just think that we've kind of, the jig is out on us. Travis Kelce can't catch every pass, and I applaud Rashee Rice for doing what he needs to do. stepping up. He's no Tyreek Hill, but the guy has 6 touchdowns on the year, and he's been playing great football. But unfortunately, you need other guys outside of Rashee Rice and outside of Travis Kelce to get the job done. And it didn't help today that we didn't have Isaiah Pacheco. But, again, the offense has been stagnant. You know, we've seen the Chiefs have struggled, especially in pass protection. You know, I've seen Patrick Mahomes so many times just throwing the ball in desperation just not to take a sack. If he didn't throw the ball on maybe 4 or 5 of those, there could have been 4 or 5 more recorded sacks. And I just think that that's alarming, you know, for the Chiefs. So, you know, I think that moving forward, in the draft at least, they definitely have to prioritize some offensive line because, you know, Patrick Mahomes won't last an entire season if he continues to get the pressure that he's getting right now. And I'm going to challenge the wide receiving core of the Kansas City Chiefs because what we've seen is the teams that are playing man defense against the Chiefs are having success. You know, too many times are we seeing guys that can't get separation. And then, of course, you know, the biggest person who I'm going to be extremely difficult on, and at this point I've lost all faith in, if you ask me, look me in my eyes, and you tell me, justify to me how Kadarius Toney should have a Kansas City Chiefs jersey on right now. You look at me and you tell me how Kadarius Toney deserves to be an NFL Kansas City Chief. You know, the guys dropped more passes than I could ever catch. And then on top of that, when you have the play that could potentially be the game-winning play, a miraculous play where Travis Kelce catches the ball, has the instincts of mind to pass the ball behind and give it to a guy to score the touchdown, and you got a guy, Kadarius Toney, who can't even fucking line up on sides. I'm sorry, but that is extremely frustrating. The very basic thing that you were taught to do as an NFL football player, stand in your stance and wait until the ball is snapped, but make sure you do it behind the line of scrimmage. And if you have a guy in Kadarius Toney who doesn't even have the presence of mind in one of the biggest downs of the season to keep that home field advantage, and you can't even line your ass up on sides, cut him. Cut him. Cut Kadarius Toney. I'm telling you right now, cut that man. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather rock out with Justin Watson. I'd rather rock out with Sky Moore. I'd rather rock out with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the slot than playing with a bum-ass Kadarius Toney who can't even land up on sides. Cut him. Cut Kadarius Toney. Cut him. And that's all I got to say about that. And finally, the last thing that I'm going to say in reference to this episode, and I'm going to try and bring this to a positive light because, man, talking about this guy, this bum, you know, he's got me worked up. I'm sorry, man. I've seen enough. But one thing that I have not seen enough of is that GTA 6 trailer. If you have not gotten a chance to see what GTA 6 is going to look like, you are doing yourself an extreme disservice. Ask me how many times I've watched that trailer. I probably watched it about 6-7 times. And each time I'm trying to find something different. And I'll say this. You know, that game is going to be the game of the millennium. 1,000%. You know, with the amount of detail and production that they're putting into this game, the fact that they're hyping us up for a release in 2025, and that's if it gets released in 2025, I think, you know, it's what we all needed to maybe get back into GTA 5 a little bit. And I think that this was kind of a ploy to get us back into pumping energy and hours back into GTA 5. But from what I've seen out of that trailer in GTA 6, just based off of the details as far as the maps, the pedestrians, the side missions, the character detail, how they're trying to incorporate the social media into the game. I think could potentially be $100 game, and I'm telling you this: I'll be saving my money. I'll be saving this up so that when that game drops, I will have that shit on release day, because I remember when GTA 5 released. It was one of the biggest releases to ever happen, man. And, we continuously play this game. It's over 10 years old, and still to this day, people play GTA 5. And the reason why is the playability and just the accessibility of this game. And I think the way that they take certain references to Florida and how they've kind of really made it looking like a living, breathing Miami, just off that minute and a half clip that we saw, you bet your bottom dollar that anybody that has a chance will buy that GTA 6 game. And I think that's going to be a record-breaking game. 1,000%. So, I'm excited. If you have not gotten a chance, please check out that GTA 6 trailer. You can go to Rockstar Games on YouTube and check them out. But that's it for the Talk That Talk show, guys. I think that the one thing that I definitely want to end the show with is a little bit of words of wisdom. And I think that one of those being, that I learned from this Friday. And, I was dreading Friday and everything leading up to it, because I knew it was going to be a difficult day. It was going to be a long day. And, it was a day that I definitely was not prepared for. And, I talked about it on the show, losing my aunt and everything that meant to me. But, we had a little bit of time. And, after a couple weeks passed, the time had come for us to, finally say our goodbye to my Aunt Doris. And, that was one of the things I dreaded the longest. I did not, when I woke up, I didn't want to wake up out of bed because I knew what we had to do. It was just an awful feeling, hands down awful feeling. And I, was on the program, and, I had to give a reflection, and it was something that I did not want to prepare for. And the reason why I didn't want to prepare for it is because I wanted to speak from my heart, because that's something that my aunt did with any and everything that she did. Everything came from her heart. And just based off of everything that I heard from the people that came in attendance to her service, they had nothing but glowing, and I won't even say positive, I'll say glowing things to say about my Aunt Doris. And, realistically, it just kind of put things into perspective for me, in the fact that, you really just have to, see how are you living your life. I know that my aunt, did everything she could to help others. And, from her, having the NYPD, taking her out and giving her the proper, goodbye that she deserved. I think it speaks to the core values that were instilled in my aunt from birth, and what she kind of instilled in me as well too, to just make the most out of every breath that we take. And through dreading going up to there, I cried. Yes, I wasn't able to get a lot of things out that I wanted to, but I spoke from my heart. And I feel like my aunt was proud of the way that I was able to deliver that speech for her as little Barry, and I think that moving forward, I think that gave me a little more confidence to not dread certain things, right? And yes, it was extremely difficult, and I cried an immense amount of tears, but I still made it through. Still was able to come and wake up today, get to work the next day, win a couple sports bets. I know it seems minuscule when you do it in comparison to losing someone that was so important to me, but the point is that I proved to myself, and sure, I tell you guys this all the time, and I make it a point to try and be positive and show you guys certain things and tell you guys things that can help you in your own life. But sometimes, for me personally, I need that reminder myself. And I think that, again, to go through what I went through and still come out and still be able to wake up, smile and have a good day and make it a happy day. I'm going to carry my aunt's spirit with me forever. And I think that, again, to be able to, wake up and still have it be a good day. And we got a beautiful day for her service. So, again, if there's any type of hardships that you're going through, if there's anything that's making you sad, upset, make you feel like you can't get through it, you don't want to get up, I promise you, if you get up, I promise you, if you stand up, if you keep fighting, it's going to be worth it. I promise you it. I just continue to find myself being blessed, being around people that care about me, being in situations that, shape me and mold me to be the best version of myself, because I'll be damned if I don't live up to what my aunt thought of me. And I think that that's something that I'm going to continue to try and live my life in, just being the best version of myself, because at the end of the day, my aunt gave so much of her energy and her time to us, my brother, my sister, my family, and I think the best way that I can repay that to her is to continue to build this podcast and to continue to work hard, self-improve, and not only that, but bring up the people around me that do believe in me, because I would be nothing if it wasn't for you, whether it's Eric Turner, whether it's TK, whether it's Ashley, whether it's Tim, whether it's anybody that's tuned in on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. I love every single one of you, and you all are the reason why I have legs to stand on and why I feel comfortable standing 10 toes down and delivering you guys episodes each and every week, and how I'm able to feel comfortable being myself. Because if you can't be yourself, who are you? And that's a great way, I think, to end this podcast here, guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for continuously tuning into the Talk That Talk show each and every week. I make it a point to prioritize recording for you guys, and you all continue to make me proud and resilient and consistent. I think that those are all adjectives and properties that, whether you're a podcaster, professional athlete, teacher, nurse, doctor, whatever you are, if you're consistent, there's no telling what you can do, and I just thank you guys so much for what you all do for me, because you empower me each and every day with your support. I love you all, and I will see you all next week.